But first tonight, did you know that over 327 million journeys are done on public transport in Birmingham and the Black Country? Now, many of us use it for the convenience of it. Some, on the other hand, use it to harass and, even worse, sometimes sexually assault other passengers. Laura Bates has been to see what's been done to tackle this. I must say, some of the scenes in this film you might find quite distressing at home.
For many passengers in the West Midlands, the routine daily commute is the last place they would expect to be the victim of a crime, let alone a sexual offence.
Anywhere that's very busy lends itself to the environment where you're either going to become a victim of like theft offences or, inappropriate touching or whatever it might be.
And the effects of sexual crimes can be devastating.
I'm kind of constantly on edge and I don't like getting the bus at all. I'm suspicious of any guy that gets on the bus now.
But alarmingly, most victims never go to the police.
We know that these offences are occurring on a regular basis on the public transport network, and less than 5% we believe are actually reported to us.
So the police are focusing their efforts on encouraging victims to come forward. One young woman who understands the reluctance to go to the police is Katie. We've changed her name to protect her identity.
I tend to use buses quite a lot. I'd gone to see a friend and I was coming back, so it was just normal kind of to and from bus journey.
Katie had been approached on the bus by a drunken man earlier in the day. When she boarded a bus to go home hours later in Birmingham, he was on board.
I just kind of stayed there and tried to be invisible and failed miserably.
Recognising Katie from earlier in the day, he sat next to her.
There was only about a centimetre difference between us, so I had nowhere to move.
Trapped by the window and with no way to escape, the man began touching her.
He kept stroking my leg, and, on the inside as well, and I kept trying to move my legs away, and then, because obviously he was a lot bigger than I am, so he then pulled my legs back, and he kept trying to put his arm around me, and I kept kind of moving away. Then it was like, "Oh, give me a kiss." I was like, no thank you, no thank you, and kept moving my head. And he kept doing it, and I kept moving my head.
Despite repeatedly saying no and moving away from him, the man continued trying to kiss her.
I think at this point I'd just kind of shut down. If I just pretend it's not happening, it's not happening.
Eventually, the man kissed her before getting off the bus.
I didn't think that it was something that you would call the police for, and I didn't want to be a nuisance.
Yeah, it's Town Drive.
And this underlies a major problem. So many people don't know if they should report what's happened to them.
I think the ones that we get most commonly reported to us on public transport are self-gratifying offences, but then more personal incidents are sort of inappropriate touching predominantly. And unfortunately, victims seem to think that can be construed as quite normal, and that's a behaviour that's, well, should we tell the police or shouldn't we?
Most don't. But last year, 129 people did report a sexual offence on public transport to West Midlands Police, with some offences particularly common.
There are the methods of offending that do come up regularly. One of the main ones is where the suspect will get onto a bus where there are empty seats, but will choose to sit next to the lone female passenger. And they describe being almost pinned against the window and then having their legs stroked, not being able to move, and just being really generally uncomfortable. When the people then ask them to move so that they can get off the bus, as they get up to get off, again they're assaulted. That's one of the more common ones.
Some offenders are less subtle. This man at Coventry bus station grabs and touches several women. The police are concerned that this sort of behaviour is becoming all too common, so I'm keen to hear the views of some young women who regularly use public transport.
Do you think that most people of your age would feel able to go to the police about something like that happening? Do you think if they were, say someone grabbed their bum or sort of groped them, do you think they would go and report it to the police?
I don't think they would.
I don't think so.
No, why not?
I think they'd rather keep it to themselves than actually go and do something about it, because that would probably make it bigger than it is. Well, it's big anyway, but then they'd think it'd be like resorted back to them, and it'd probably be classified as their fault. So I don't think, especially our age people, would actually go and tell anyone about it, let alone the police.
Because it happens so often. Yeah.
I don't think people recognise that it's not right, so they'll just consider it, because it's happened so many times, they'll just be like, they'll just brush it off.
But there's another reason they won't go to the police.
I also think that if you report to the police and nothing would be done just because it's a minor, crime, I think that you would be scared to get in trouble next time, because those people will just remember that it was you who reported to the police.
So that was very typical of a session talking to teenage girls in schools. There's an instant recognition of the problem, but there's a real sense of confusion about whether it's serious enough to report, about what constitutes a crime, and none of them had ever reported something like this to the police.
And the police recognise they have a lot to do to get victims to come forward.
The reality is that we don't have the full picture, and we're only going to ever have the full picture if we have the intelligence from people that use these services every single day.
So Project Empower has been launched, a permanent team of officers dedicated to tackling sexual offences on the transport network in the West Midlands.
We felt that we needed to make a stand now and to start to target the suspects, but also to empower the victims to report.
The police tell me they are so committed to Project Empower, they want to know about everything.
We're encouraging reporting of any kind of unwanted behaviour of a sexual nature. And what we're saying is it doesn't have to be a crime. If you are on a transport network, a bus, a train, a tram, and somebody does something that makes you feel uncomfortable, then you need to report it to us.
Out on the buses, and the cops are keen to spread the word about Project Empower among passengers.
We recognise that they're really underreported.
The message they're sharing is simple. If you're the victim of an offence, dial 999 and report it.
And if someone does experience groping or verbal harassment and rings 999, the police will be taking that seriously?
Absolutely, yes. It will be prioritised, and we would never say that within 30 seconds you'll get an officer there. But yeah, absolutely, it's no different to any other crime.
As we take a break from filming, a woman from the bus approaches us. She tells me that she was assaulted the previous week.
We really need to know exactly what happened and where.
Okay.
Rob, could you just speak to this lady for me, just ascertain a few details? She's obviously been a victim of something. Just like name, address, telephone number, where it happened, what happened.
Like so many victims, she hadn't reported the incident. With thousands of cameras across the bus and rail network, CCTV can be retrieved days and even weeks after the incident, so it's never too late to speak out. The woman who approached us when we were filming made a statement. The CCTV of the incident has been located and retrieved. And in Katie's case, her report led to the suspect being identified, arrested, and charged.
It didn't seem at all like the police would do anything with what happened with my situation, but they have, so it's probably better that you at least tell someone. Don't stay quiet at all, because it doesn't do you any good.
If you've been a victim of crime like the ones featured in Laura's film and you want to know where to go for help, why don't you head over to our website, bbc.co.uk/Inside Out. Next on Inside Out.